Hello everyone, welcome back to another blood pressure video. Now, what if I told you that doing a 7-minute routine every single day could be more powerful than your blood pressure medication that your doctor prescribes you? And there's some really good evidence behind that claim that I'm going to get into in a few minutes. Now, it doesn't involve any gym memberships. There's no equipment involved. There's no complicated programs. It is completely free and it doesn't involve any expensive supplements that you buy online. Just 7 minutes done consistently every day that targets your blood pressure through multiple different mechanisms at the same time. Now, most people, when they think about lowering their blood pressure, they think about one or two things. Maybe cutting salt, going for a run, or taking a tablet that they prescribed. But this routine is very different because it hits the underlying causes of high blood pressure. And I'll explain exactly why that matters as we go through. Now, if you're new here, then hello, I'm Dr. Alex. And basically, what this channel is a way of trying to help you prevent the diseases that I see every single day in the emergency department. And if you want to support what I'm doing here, then the best thing that you can do is like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help this channel grow and keep pushing these videos out to more people who could benefit from them. Okay, the first thing to understand is why your blood pressure goes up in the first place. And really, there are 3 different mechanisms that happen at the same time when your blood pressure is elevated. The first one is arterial stiffness. So your blood vessels become less elastic over time. And when that happens, your heart essentially has to work harder to push blood through them. So that pressure goes up. The second one is poor vascular function. Your blood vessels basically aren't dilating the way that they should. They're not responding properly to the demands that your body is placing on them. And the third one is your nervous system being overactive. So things like stress, anxiety, poor sleep, these all keep your body constantly in that fight or flight state. And what that does is keep your blood pressure elevated because your body thinks it's under threat. Now, most people try to fix this with one thing, but this routine is built to address all 3 of them, and the order in which you do it actually matters, which is something that I'll come back to in a bit. Now, before we go any further, let's just be really clear about what this video is and what it isn't. This is not a video about diet. It's not a video about stress or sleep or weight loss. All of those things matter enormously for your blood pressure. And I've done lots of different videos on these, so you'll know that me not covering these in this video doesn't mean that they're not important. This is simply a 7-minute routine all about movement. That's it. The whole point is to show you that even just 7 minutes a day done consistently can have a really meaningful impact on your blood pressure. Because in the ideal world, you'd be exercising every day. You'd be lifting weights. You'd be building your V2 max through regular cardio. You'd be eating well, managing your stress, all the stuff that I talk about all the time. But let's be honest, most people aren't doing that. Most people don't have time or they can't fully commit. And this routine is for you. It's for those sorts of people. It's the minimum effective dose of movement. Basically, something is always better than nothing. And the evidence behind each element of this routine is really impressive. So if you can fit 7 minutes in, then you'll be doing something really good for your blood pressure. Okay, let's get into the routine then. So the first 2.5 minutes are what I call the isometric phase. And this is honestly one of the most underrated things that you can do for your blood pressure. What you're going to do is a wall sit. That's where you'll put your back flat against the wall and drop down until your thighs are parallel with the floor until they're flat. And you hold that for about 90 seconds or as long as you can. And this is really difficult. This will really work your quads. The next thing you're going to do is move into a plank for another 60 seconds. And I know what some of you are probably thinking right now. Yeah, this is exercise. Of course, this is going to be good for your blood pressure. But isometric exercise like this specifically is really interesting because of what it does to your arteries. When you hold a static contraction like a wall sit or a plank where your muscles are tense, but you're not really moving, you're creating a sustained muscular tension without movement. And the research shows that this type of exercise has massive effects on your arterial compliance. Basically, how stretchy and responsive your arteries are. The landmark study here is this really big meta-analysis, published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine a few years ago, 2024 or 23, I think, and it pulled data from around 270 randomized control trials, and it looked at over 15,000 people, and it looked at every major type of exercise and their effect on blood pressure and isometric exercise. Like this came out on top, producing the greatest reductions in both systolic, the top number, and diastolic, which is the bottom number, both of those blood pressure readings over any exercise that was tested. Systolic pressure dropped by an average of around 8 points. And to put that into context, that is in the range of what a first-line blood pressure medication might achieve, something like ramipril or amlopipine. And the mechanism seems to be related to improved arterial elasticity over time. So you're not just lowering your blood pressure in the moment, you're actually improving the structure and function of the vessels themselves. Now, the important point here is that you do not need to be fit to do a wall sit or a plank. You just need to start. Anybody can do this unless you are particularly frail, but there are ways of modifying this. Basically, just do what your body can achieve at the moment. Even 30 seconds is fine at the beginning. From minute 2.5 to minute 4, you're going to move into a short burst of cardio. Now, this honestly is nothing crazy. This can be just fast walking on the spot, doing step-ups on the bottom, stair, or if you are fit enough, then you can go for a quick run if that's possible. And the point of this section is all about nitric oxide, and I talk about this all the time. Now, nitric oxide is a molecule that your blood vessels produce naturally, and it causes those vessels to relax and widen, what we call vasodilation. And when you exercise even briefly, you stimulate the endothelial cells that line your blood vessels to produce more of it. And that's really important because in people with high blood pressure, this endothelial function is often impaired. It doesn't really work that well. The vessels aren't responding properly. They're not dilating when they should do. And the evidence for aerobic exercise and endothelial function is really well established. We can't really argue with this sort of stuff. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Heart Association showed that regular aerobic exercise significantly improved endothelial function as measured by flow-mediated dilation, which is essentially a measure of how well your blood vessels respond to increased blood flow. What it tells us is that short bursts of cardio like this are one of the most effective ways to restore that response. You're essentially training your blood vessels the same way that you train a muscle. And over time, they get better at doing what they're supposed to do. For a minute 4 to 5, we're going to move into what I call the vascular flow phase. And this one is really, really simple. Start with calf raises. So just rising up onto your toes and then back down for 20 or 30 reps. And then do some arm circles or arm swings. And then maybe some light squats if you're comfortable with those. And all of that might seem a bit too easy to be doing anything useful, but it's serving a specific purpose. Your calf muscles are sometimes referred to as your second heart because when they contract, they pump blood back up from the legs towards your heart. When blood pools in the lower limbs, peripheral, resistance goes up, and that puts more pressure on the system. And this is why we tell you to do these things on a long haul flight, getting blood moving through those vessels, improving circulation, reduces that resistance. Now, research into this sort of stuff shows us that regular muscle contraction in the lower limbs improves circulatory efficiency, particularly in people who are largely sedentary. And it also keeps the momentum of what you've already done so far to keep going. So you're bridging the more intense phases with the final, calming phase that I'll get to in a minute in a way that doesn't just stop everything abruptly. And then finally, from minute 5 to minute 7, this is the part that most people skip and is possibly the most important bit. And this is all about controlled breathing. You're aiming for about 6 breaths per minute. That's a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale. Now, that is pretty slow. It's rhythmic. It's diaphragmatic. So you're breathing into the belly, not just the chest. And this pattern of breathing is sometimes called resonance frequency breathing or slow-paced breathing. And the evidence behind it is pretty compelling once you read it. another meta-analysis published in the journal Hypertension in 2021. Again, another really big study looked specifically at device-guided and unguided slow breathing interventions and found consistent reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure across multiple trials. The mechanism for this one here is the autonomic nervous system. When you breathe slowly and rhythmically, you activate the parasympathetic branch, which is the rest and digest system, and you also calm down the sympathetic branch, which is the fight or flight system. Now, high blood pressure is often partly driven by chronically elevated sympathetic tone, so what slow breathing does is directly counteract that. It also improves something called heart rate variability, and I did a video on this about 4 weeks ago, and it's really worth watching if you want to learn more about that. And this is a marker of your cardiovascular health and your nervous system balance. Now, the reason the order of all of that routine is important is that you're deliberately taking your body through a specific sequence. You start with load, with the isometric exercises, which creates a controlled stress on the cardiovascular system and drives adaptation in your arteries. Then you add the flow side of things, which is the cardio burst, which stimulates nitric oxide and improves your vessel responsiveness. The next thing you do is enhance your circulation through the movement phase, keeping your blood moving and reducing peripheral resistance. And then you finish with calm, with the breathing, which shifts the nervous system into a recovery state and then brings your blood pressure back down in a way that's actually therapeutic. You're taking your body from stress to recovery deliberately, and that is a really powerful stimulus for long-term cardiovascular adaptation. It's the same principle that underlies why exercise in general is good for your blood pressure. You're applying a controlled stress and then allowing the body to respond and adapt. But this routine is structured to hit all three of the major mechanisms simultaneously in a sequence that makes physiological sense. At this point, let me just be really straight with you and address something that's been mentioned a few times in the comments of other videos. If you're already on blood pressure medication, then please do not just stop taking it without telling your doctor. That is not what this video is about. What I'd encourage you to do is to start this routine alongside your medication. Be consistent with it first, and then keep monitoring your blood pressure and have a conversation with your doctor over time about whether your numbers are improving or not. Some people who make consistent lifestyle changes do end up being able to reduce their medication dose or even come off it entirely. But obviously that has to be done under medical supervision. Now, if you're not on medication and your blood pressure is either normal or mildly elevated, then this is exactly the kind of thing that you can just be doing on your own before even reaching for a prescription. Obviously, the evidence supports lifestyle intervention as a first-line approach for most people with stage 1 hypertension. And this routine is a very practical, accessible way to start doing that. It's always better to try and reduce it on your own before relying on medication. Either way, whether you're on medication or not, this routine sits on top of everything else. It doesn't replace medication if you genuinely need it. It doesn't replace eating well or managing your stress levels or getting good sleep. It is simply a movement routine, 7 minutes. And the point is that even that, just 7 minutes, is enough to start influencing your blood pressure in a really meaningful way if you do it every day. The thing that I really want to leave you with, though, is this. 7 minutes. Sounds a bit trivial, a bit random, and honestly, one session isn't going to change your blood pressure in any decent way. What changes things is the compounding effect of doing this every single day. And if any of you have watched the older videos on this channel, then you'll know that I've got a poster over here that just says 1% better every single day. What this channel is about is doing simple things consistently and improving them very slowly over time. The arterial adaptations that asymmetric exercise drives obviously doesn't happen overnight. They build over weeks and months of consistent stimulus. The improvement in endothelial function from regular cardio takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. The shift in nervous system baseline that comes from your daily breathing practice accumulates very gradually. Blood pressure, as I'm sure you know, is a long gain. And the people who see the biggest reductions are not the people who do something dramatic for 2 weeks and then stop. They are the people who do something small consistently for months and improve it very slowly. They are the people who do something small consistently for months or years or decades. It is not the 7 minutes. It's doing it every day that's important. And look, for some people, this routine will be a gateway for doing more. If 7 minutes every morning makes you feel really good and it makes you start going for walks or it makes you join a gym or you start paying attention to what you eat, then that is fantastic. That is exactly what I'm hoping for. But even if it doesn't, even if this is all you do, the evidence suggests that it will still make a big difference. That is the whole point of this video. It's not everything, but it's still significant, if that makes sense. You don't need to overhaul your entire life to start moving the needle on your blood pressure. You just need 7 minutes, done consistently in the right order, every single day. So start there. See what happens over 3 months.